Hello and welcome back to the Football Roundup. My name is David Roney and I'm joined by the likes of Bryce Donaldson and Luke Barry in the studio today. Before we start the show, it was the Scottish Cup last weekend and that did see Scottish Cup drama with it. A few replays, one of which happened last night. It was Dunfermline and Hamilton. They met in a Scottish Cup replay. It was a 1-1 draw. Bryce will obviously be talking about it later in the show, being a Pars fan himself. It was a 1-1 draw with extra time and penalties, which Dunfermline unfortunately didn't score the first three penalties. Hamilton scored the three, and it was a 3-0 win for Hamilton as they progressed in the next round to face Rangers. However, both sides made a fourth substitution in extra time, a new rule in the Scottish Cup that allows this. So, for the teaser for today is, who was the first team to play a fourth substitution and who was it against? So, I'll repeat that. It was, who was the first team to play a fourth substitution in a match, a competitive match at that, and whom was it against? So, it was a special week this week, and I'm not talking about Valentine's Day. That's right, the Champions League returned and the drama with it. We're going to go to Paris. Barcelona travelled to the city in love, but it wasn't to be a love affair for them. They got thrashed by French giants Paris Saint-Germain by 4-0. Angel Di Maria getting 2 goals to his name himself. Julian Draxler getting a goal in between that, and Edson Cavani finished it off with a fine Valentine's Day dessert, to say that, in the 71st minute to join in the action. Bryce, I'm going to come to you first. So both teams are second in their respected leagues. Why then was it such a one-sided fixture today? Last night, sorry.
To be honest, I'm not sure. Before the match, if you'd asked me who was going to win, I probably, like most people, would have picked Barcelona pretty easily. But PSG aren't a team to kind of shrug off. You know, they've spent a considerable amount of money in the last few seasons bringing players in, and I think the big sign in this one was Julian Draxler, who's a really good player. You know, he's come from the German leagues where it's still very competitive, you know, arguably more competitive than the Spanish or French. So he's come from a really good league. He's now working with really good players, and I think that's kind of given PSG not really a surprise factor, because everyone knows they're a good team, but it's a surprise in the sense that they could be that good in a European sense, I think.
Yeah, and the fact of Julian Draxler, he was at the Bundesliga for a number of years. He was linked to Arsenal previous years. Everyone thinks he's quite old now. He's still very young. He's, I think, about 23 or so. He went from Schalke to Wolfsburg, and then in January, before the winter break, he said he wasn't going to play for Wolfsburg again. And as we know, he did transfer to Paris Saint-Germain and has made the difference in that tie against Barcelona. Look, where did Barcelona go from here? There's no side in Champions League history have progressed after a 4-goal deficit in the first leg. No side's done it to progress, and this is equal to Barca's worst Champions League defeat in their history. Is there any chance of Barcelona, or is it too late now?
Well, obviously they are very far down. 4-0 down at home is not. Also, they were away actually, but PSG's home is not a good way to start. But if any team can turn it around, you suspect Barcelona at the Nou Camp could do it. Obviously, we know about their front three. We don't really need to talk about them in too much length. Obviously, Messi, Suarez and Neymar. But what they will do, and what they tend to do, is believe in their philosophy. They won't change no matter what happens in the game. They don't panic. They'll always try and pass away, try and create something through their style of play. But to be honest, if PSG play like they did in the first leg last night, because they were completely dominant yesterday, Barcelona had like a couple chances, that was it. The defending was shocking, to be honest. If PSG can pull out a good away performance, they could easily actually win at Barcelona Stadium, to be honest. I wouldn't completely rule out a Barca comeback, but it would be probably one of the most extraordinary things you've ever seen in the modern day football.
And Luis Enrique, the manager of Barcelona, has taken the blame for this defeat, saying that I'm responsible for this. Do you agree with that, Bryce? Do you think it's down to his management and his tactics for going into that match, or is it down to players like Messi not showing up in the big moments, or maybe their centre-halves like Piqué not defending the way he should in these kind of ties?
It's probably a bit of both, but it is the manager's kind of responsibility to take that fall for the team. Obviously, you can have the best players in the world, but if your tactics aren't right, you know, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to play a good game of football. So clearly, PSG just figured them out, and that was what gave them the edge.
So look, as we know, Barcelona did win the Champions League just 2 years ago. How have they went from that high of winning the Champions League with arguably the best front three in Europe to going like this and getting brushed aside by 4-0?
It's a good question, and the only thing that can possibly come into my mind is perhaps complacency. And we've seen, as you mentioned, in the league that, or not in the league, sorry, at the start of the show, that both PSG and Barca are second in their respective leagues. I think Barcelona they've got 2 games over Real Madrid and they're still behind them in the league table, which kind of suggests that they're not having the best of seasons. Because looking at their team, there shouldn't really be anyone that should beat them, in all honesty, with that amount of firepower up front. I suspect it could be questions asked of the defence. Obviously, it's a few years now since he retired, but Carlos Puyol was a warrior at the back with Barcelona. He was always there to dig them out of trouble. Gerard Piqué is a good centre-back, but Samuel Umtiti, he's got potential. He's still young, but there was a couple moments last night he looked a bit shaky for me, and I think that'll be the most area of concern. They'll need a new right-back as well, actually, because Sergio Roberto was all over the place last night as well.
And this last heavy defeat, as I mentioned before, was one of many big Champions League defeats Barcelona have endured. There's 4, to be exact, of 4-0 defeats. There's no been more than 4 goals, but they still have lost 4-0. The last time they did lose 4-0 in a Champions League tie was against Bayern Munich in the semi-final first leg back in April 2013. To my understanding, Bayern Munich either went on that year to win the competition or it was the following year. But can PSG do this now? Could PSG go on and win that Champions League that they've been looking for?
I mean, they've got as good a chance as any, I'd say. But I want to say it's early to write off Barcelona. I mean, we've been saying that it's not been done in history before, but if there was any team to do that, you would think that Barcelona would be the ones to make that bit of history. They seem to do it so often. So I think PSG have got a long way to go, but if they keep a level head, then yeah, they've got as good a chance as anyone.
And look, Lionel Messi did only have 51 touches overall in yesterday's match, none of which were inside the penalty box. Is that worrying for Luis Enrique and Barca fans?
Potentially, but I don't think it's going to be a season-long problem for them. I think it was just in that particular game, for whatever reason, Barca just weren't at it. I believe it was Messi that was actually at fault for conceding the second goal. He basically gave it away for Verratti to slip it through to Draxler for Draxler to score. This wasn't Barcelona's day, to be honest. I would be surprised if they continue in this sort of vein of form for the rest of the season. But it most definitely was not a good return to Champions League for them.
From there, we're going to now go to Benfica in Portugal. They were host to Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund dominated the match when it comes to stats. 69% possession, 14 shots, 5 of which were on target. But Benfica made the difference. They got a goal in the 48th minute, I do believe, to put themselves ahead. It was a bad night for Dortmund striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Bryce, he had a penalty saved along with 2 vital chances to give his team the advantage head into the second leg in 2 weeks' time. Is this a matter of bad luck for Dortmund, or is a finishing just not the standard required last night?
I mean, I didn't actually see the game last night, so I'm not entirely sure what the standard of finishing was. But bad. Well, maybe hand this one over to you, Luke, if you know more about it.
Well, yeah, I guess the only thing I could say is Aubameyang, he had 2 clear chances which you would definitely expect him to score. He probably should have done, and on both occasions he skied it over the crossbar. So I don't know why. I don't know if he just got sort of scared, the pressure got to him, but his penalty as well, he hit it straight down the middle at the keeper. So Dortmund were, looking at the highlights of the game, Dortmund were the better team, but they just didn't put their chances away. When Benfica got their chance at the corner, they took it, and I think that's what does win you football matches ultimately.
Is this time for Dortmund to come back now, Bryce, or has Benfica got that? Well, as it looks at the score, obviously Benfica do have the advantage now going to the second leg, and if they do nick a goal away from home, it'll make things even more difficult for Dortmund. But do Benfica now have a realistic chance? I think a lot of people do write them off in previous years, but is this the time they could go on a good Champions League run? I
mean, I'd love Benfica to do well. The thing about Benfica, though, is a lot of their players are quite young and don't have a lot of, if any, Champions League experience. Whereas, Dortmund have kind of consolidated their place in Europe from, a few seasons ago being in the Europa League, now in the Champions League. Kind of over the last few seasons, they've kind of stuck with a lot of players they've managed to hold on to. So they're kind of becoming a team that is, I don't want to say a mainstay in the Champions League, but, becoming more confident in it. So it's going to be difficult for Benfica to really challenge them away from home.
And an interesting statistic as well is both teams that have lost did top their group in the group stage. Benfica and Paris Saint-Germain were second in their respective groups. Arsenal, who of which won the group against Paris Saint-Germain, and Benfica, I think it was Napoli that finished top. And from there, we're going to go to Napoli now. They travel to Madrid to face Real Madrid in a tie. Napoli striker Milik was out with quite a severe injury earlier this season, and he does appear that he's back in full fitness. He could make an appearance tonight. Do you think that's going to be the difference tonight, Luke? Do you think a striker of his ability can maybe challenge that defence of Real Madrid? Real Madrid did have the best win streak, the best unbeaten run, as of late, and they did, after that, they did lose to Sevilla in the league, and they suffered another defeat as well, and I think they're out the Copa del Rey. I may be wrong saying that, but is this the best time for Napoli to strike now to get over advantage over Real Madrid?
Well, if we use your omen, David, then yes, because Napoli won the group and Real Madrid were second. But realistically, to be honest, yes and no, because I think the major thing with this game is everyone will be expecting Real Madrid to be the favourites. They'll probably in their head have that little bit as well. Napoli will know it's going to be an uphill climb, but there's nothing to say that they can't do it. As you mentioned, Madrid were on that incredible unbeaten run, but they've kind of faltered a bit since that sort of went down the pan a little bit. They've kind of lost a bit of confidence, and I think that'll be their biggest downfall. If they almost underestimate Napoli, that'll be their biggest mistake, because they do have dangerous players like Hamsik and Dries Mertens, among others. I can't mind who their goalie is, but I feel like he's pretty good. I've forgotten his name, but
for
Napoli.
Napoli, last time I checked it was Jose Reina, but I don't think he's still there.
Okay, but yeah, I think it's a good chance for Napoli to try and establish themselves, because people are probably writing them off, but it's a good time to play Madrid, but ultimately it will be difficult, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, Napoli do have the likes of, for example, Mertens. He is getting on a wee bit, like he's about 27, 28, but he's playing his best football, I think we could say, in his career so far. So now we're going to go to Munich. Bayern Munich, they are host to Arsenal. This fixture has become quite a regular one in the past few years. They've met quite often in this competition, and it does appear that Arsenal did beat them 1 year, but because Bayern Munich had the better of the first leg, they did progress. So for Bayern, they have been more challenged this season for that Bundesliga title, most notably of RB Leipzig. Say that what you will. But for Arsenal, there have been a lot of discussion as of late regarding the future of their manager, Arsene Wenger. Bryce, is a good Champions League run something needed to boost the morale of not only the Arsenal fans, but for the manager and the players themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's important for them, obviously. Arsene Wenger clearly has a lot of Champions League experience. Saying that, it's going to be really difficult for Arsenal to beat Bayern. Even though Bayern have had competition in their own league, they're still top of the league. So, I mean, clearly they're still, as good as ever. So it's going to be really difficult for Arsenal, who of late have not put in stellar performances, but, anything's possible.
Look, we have spoke, you weren't here last week, but me and Bryce did speak about Arsene Wenger and his future at the club. Personally, I said that Arsene Wenger emotionally doesn't have it in him to win the league because he's so emotionally connected to Arsenal. Does he have it in him to win a Champions League, though?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I think that would ultimately be the perfect goodbye present for whenever he does leave. We've got to assume it's in the next 5 years, but that will have to be one of the targets, because Arsenal have been notorious now for making the Champions League, doing well in the group stages, but falling flat in the round of 16. Round of 16 in the past few years as well. I remember particularly against AC Milan a few years ago it started. I mean, I honestly don't know. I don't know how much of it is down to him or just the team he's got, and that's no disrespect to the Arsenal team, but in particular with this match against Bayern Munich, I think the key will be the difference in the defence, and this is no disrespect to Arsenal's back line, but when you're playing Philipp Lahm, Jerome Boateng, Mats Hummels and David Alaba, that is like one of the strongest back lines in world football, with Manuel Neuer in nets. So it will be a challenge. I personally, from a neutral standpoint, would actually quite like to see Arsenal do something, because we don't get to see them in Europe much, because, as I've just said, they tend to fall flat at this stage of the competition. I think he can win a Champions League. Whether he will, I'm not sure, but I think technically his ability is good enough for him to do it.
And anything else you want to add, Bryce or Luke? Regarding Champions League this week?
Leicester, Sevilla, really is the one to sort of would be interesting.
Yeah, we spoke about this before the show, and we will talk about Leicester later on. The fact of the Champions League. Jamie Carragher brought up a good point on Monday Night Football this week, that he feels it would be more embarrassing if Leicester beat Sevilla and have a good Champions League run due to their league form, and it shows that they're not performing in the league, but when it comes to the big competition they are. Do you agree with that, Bryce? Do you think it will be embarrassing for them?
I don't actually agree. I think it will be more embarrassing for Sevilla to be beaten by a team that are not doing well in the league. You know, they're not going to want to lose. Nobody wants to lose, but if they're beaten, it's going to be very embarrassing for them. Whereas, you know, Leicester can build from that. A wee bit of confidence in their team might do wonders for them. So I'm not going to agree with that.
And Leicester City, they do travel to Sevilla first. Leicester City will have the advantage of the second leg being at home. That's on Wednesday of next week. Also fixtures on that Wednesday is Porto. They are host to Juventus. A big tie in that if Juventus can maybe reach another Champions League final, if they can win the competition, only time will tell. The day before that, on the Tuesday 21st, Bayern Leverkusen, they are host to Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid are third in the La Liga at the moment. Bayern Leverkusen, I'm not aware, but I think they are still quite high up. Hernandez being the informed striker for them. Also that night, Manchester City, they are home to Monaco. Manchester City we'll talk about later in the show. Their new striker, Gabriel Jesus, he is out for 2 to 3 months with an injury regarding his foot. I remember seeing the specific term that he's damaged, but even myself, I'll be honest, I don't really have a good knowledge of, say, biology or medicine, so I wasn't sure what exactly his damage, but it is around his ankle or foot area. So when we come back, we're going to go to the Scottish Cup. We're going to talk about Mark Warburton resigning or sacking. Who knows? And we will talk about the results and more, and also Moussa Dembele's hat-trick, back-to-back hat-tricks now in the league and cup, so stay tuned for that. Now we're going to go in the Scottish Cup. We're going to start with the Rangers. They were hosts agreed at Morton, a 2-1 tie. Morton took the lead early on, but Rangers came back to win 2-1. But saying that, the big talking point is Mark Warburton's resignation from the club. Rangers announced that themselves on the Friday. Match was played that Sunday. It came to a lot of surprise. Me and Bryce discussed it last Wednesday, if he was going to stay at the club. And we did believe that, I think we both agreed, Bryce, that we felt that he was going to go, but we didn't expect it as imminent. We expected it maybe near the end of the season. But he has left his coaching staff with him, the likes of Weir as well. But Mark Warburton himself and his coaching staff have said that they did not hand the resignation in, and they expect an announcement from Rangers and answers why they have said this is the case. Before we talk about the game, Bryce, who do you think's telling the fibs here? Do you think it's Rangers? Do you think they've sacked him and they want to kind of cover their tracks and make themselves look good? Or is it Warburton? Warburton did hand his resignation in, but he wants to appear that he has been sacked so that when he goes to other clubs, which we know that he has, had maybe one eye on the Rangers job and one eye off, looking for another job, maybe down England again. Do you think that's the case, or do you think it's who's telling fibs?
I mean, both Rangers and Mark Warburton have made such a mess of the situation that it's kind of impossible to say, because, I mean, it's you don't know who's telling the truth here. It's a really weird one. Obviously, Mark Warburton said that he didn't hand his resignation in. I'm not quite sure why he would want to appear that he was sacked. Surely that's not good for his CV. If another club sees you've been sacked, you're normally sacked for a reason. So I'm not really.
Maybe the argument for that is that he wants to make himself look good. That the fact that, I know you said that he doesn't want to appear that he's been sacked, but when you say that he was unjust with the way he lost his job, and now that he's been unjust that he wants to go for something else, it also gives him the ability to go to a job midway through a season. Do you think that may be the case? Yeah,
I mean, I think it's all going to blow over pretty soon, and I can see Mark Warburton going down and getting like a League One side to manage, and not really doing anything miraculous. So just like he did at Rangers, really not anything miraculous. But so I'm not exactly sure what's gone on, but definitely both teams, Rangers and Mark Warburton should be, looking for a new PR person.
Who do Rangers need to go for now, Luke?
It's a tricky one, because they need a manager that can maintain their current level of performance. To not make sure it's any worse, but they need somebody that's going to inject something different, because I think they have coming back to the top division of Scottish football was going to be a struggle, given the amount of players and like resources they lost with the whole meltdown that happened 6-7 years ago. I think they'll need somebody that can work with youth, and that'll be a big thing for Rangers now. They can get decent youth players through and develop them up. That'll, in a few years' time, hopefully get them to a level where they can like challenge Celtic for league titles and the cups and so on. I'm struggling for names, to be perfectly honest.
You know, he's pretty good for youth. Brendan Rodgers.
Well, that'll be controversial. moved across Glasgow. I personally don't see that one happening.
I can't see that one happening.
No, I'm joking.
You do understand. We do get the fact that they have appointed Graham Murty as interim manager.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Graham Murty, he was managing the under-20 side at Rangers, and he was at the Glasgow Warriors game, and then he was asked to come to Ibrox, and he was given the job on an interim basis, I think, till the end of the season. One name has been thrown about, and personally I do think this is a wee bit high standard. I think it's either Rangers fans saying this, or the media that's saying this, but then one of the names has been thrown about is Frank de Boer. He would go from, I believe, is he at Inter Milan currently?
I think so.
And he would leave Inter Milan to go for Rangers.
He's either Inter or he's at Ajax, I can't remember which.
He was at Ajax.
He was at Ajax for a long
that's
time, but I don't think he's there anymore.
Because he did appear that he was waiting for a job in the Premier League. But regarding this, so with Rangers this season, yeah, it does seem that it's gone. But whatever manager does come in, if it's going to be they're going to stick with Graham Murty. Honestly, I highly doubt that. But after summer, they're going to find a manager. But this manager needs to properly challenge Celtic next season if they want a real chance of cementing their place in the club. Do you agree with that, Bruce?
I mean, another name that was thrown about was Alex McLeish.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of come back and do a second stint at Rangers, and I think, I'm not sure.
He was on the Sky's coverage of it, and I think David Tanner, who will hopefully be joining us in a couple of weeks' time on the next edition of the show for a period of time, he was asked. McLeish joined him, and
he didn't deny it.
He didn't deny it,
That's
but
key.
At the same time, he was keeping his cards close to his chest, and he was just placing the facts in front of him and said, "This is what happened. Is there been contact with you in the club?" And he says, "No." "Would you like the job?" "Yes." So obviously he's interested, but will Rangers go down that route? Do you think they'll go down that route, Luke?
It's hard to know. I just hope that whoever does come in is allowed the time to actually prove his worth. Because there can be a tendency, particularly in these days in modern football, for fans and clubs to become particularly impatient to expect immediate results. Given the situation Rangers are in, I think they should be looking at a project, like a long-term sort of 3 or 4 year, like sort of tenure for somebody to try and build something up. Because it's pretty clear at the moment that they're not going to be able to challenge Celtic on a consistent basis, because they are the class act of Scottish football. We can't really deny that. Alex McLeish would be an interesting one. I'd be personally, as a fan's point of view, be more intrigued to see what Frank de Boer could do. I think it would be a good challenge for him and could potentially build his rep up a lot. Would probably be quite a good pull for the Scottish Premier League. But as I was saying, basically I would like and hope that Rangers fans will give whoever comes in the time to sort of make something happen. Nothing's going to happen overnight.
Another big game at the weekend was the Edinburgh Derby. On paper it did seem like a big game, but it wasn't really meant to be. It was a 0-0 game at Tynecastle. The pitch, I think, itself got quite a lot of criticism during the match. It was very rough and torn up. But now Hibs, they now host Hearts in a replay on the 22nd of February. Is it advantage Hibs now, Bryce?
Pardon?
Is it advantage for Hibs now that they're bringing them to Easter Road?
I mean, I think that was a really kind of odd match for me. I thought, I think you predicted it yourself. You thought it was going to be quite low scoring.
I have predicted it, the fact that I could see it being a draw.
Yeah.
But I did predict it to be a 2-goal draw, a 4-goal thriller, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be.
I mean, I also thought it was going to be quite a high-scoring match. Both teams have quite good attacks, and
they both had really good momentum going to this match. Hibs had played well previous, but then they drew with Ayr the match before they did play Hearts, I believe.
So I mean,
whereas Hearts did score 7 goals in
2 games.
Yeah, and
so
conceded 1.
I mean, I thought there was going to be loads of goals, and I thought, to be perfectly honest, Hearts being that league above, more used to playing against a stronger opposition, that I thought Hearts would win it. I didn't know if it was going to be comfortable, but I thought they would get the win. And now that Hibs have, taken the draw, they're going to bring it back to Easter Road. It's up in the air again. I mean, it's a really difficult one to call. I think it's going to be another kind of hard, ground-out match, but it could go either way.
Yeah, look, Ian Cather himself has got a certain philosophy how to play teams such as Hibs or play teams like Rangers, whereas with the Neil Lennon approach is when he saw what the pitch was like, he saw what Hearts was like, he went for a very physical team. I think the pitch at Easter Road's going to be a lot better. Does Ian Cather now need to change the philosophy coming into this next match, given that the advantage is in the favour of Hibs and Neil Lennon's side?
You could probably argue this on both ways. I would like to see him stick to what he knows and what he can do, because it's probably the way they're going to have the most confidence within the team. But as you said, you could argue it is advantage Hibs now, given that they've gone to Hearts ground, they've managed to get a result. Although it goes to replay, so it's not really a result, but it's something. They didn't lose the game. Easter Road can be quite an intimidating place for teams to go to, but then again, it is a derby, so the whole sort of fever's there anyway. But you're right with Neil Lennon with the physical team, and it's tough to call. I would probably back Hibs but I think if Cathro can either stick to what his philosophy was and make it work, or slightly change it, it would be a tactical masterstroke. It would definitely help his legacy with the Hearts fans.
Another thing to kind of quickly put in is it's good revenue for both clubs getting an extra Edinburgh derby in the season there.
I think Neil Lennon himself was more happy with the replay than Ian Cather. I think Ian Cather, speaking after the game, was quite frustrating the fact that his players didn't perform the way that he wanted them to play in the pitch. I think the groundskeeper for Tynecastle will have a few sleepless nights. But from there, we're going to go to Glasgow. We're not talking about Rangers again, we're talking about Celtic. Celtic won by 6-0 against Inverness Cali Thistle. No Super Cali chant this time, unfortunately, but it was goals from Lustig, Tierney and Brown, but the main man of the moment, it was Moussa Dembele. He got a hat-trick, back-to-back hat-tricks to be exact, one against St Johnstone and now one against Cali Thistle. It's difficult for words to describe what Moussa Dembele has done since coming to the Scottish Premiership. He was at Fulham. Was highly rated there. Was linked to like the Chelsea and Spurs. He decided to come up to Scotland. He signed for Celtic, and he's been doing wonders since. Can you see him staying this summer, Luke, or is one of these Premier League sides going to see his performances this season and but want to pick him up?
I think there will be certain teams that will go in for him. Whether he'll actually move is a separate issue. I think Celtic will be desperate to keep hold of him because he's scored over 20 goals this season already. We're only in February.
I think it's 26 now. 26,
yeah. So the double hat-trick obviously helps that. But yes, him moving up here was a great move for him himself and for Celtic. He's been incredible, and I can understand teams wanting to go in for him. I just don't know if he's quite ready for it yet. Obviously, he's still quite a young player. There'll be a lot more pressure on him to perform for it, especially if he goes to England. I'd expect he'll go to maybe a lower half Premier League team, where his main onus will be to score the goals to keep them away from relegation. I think personally, for his career, he should stay at Celtic, enjoy the glory, because he's an absolute fan's favourite just now, because why wouldn't he be? Potentially get Champions League football, which will help him for later career. If he does go, I suspect he'll go for a decent sum, but Celtic will want to hold on to him, definitely. I would be surprised if he left, thinking about it.
If you were Lee Griffiths' price, would you be worried?
Kind of like just challenging for a place in the team. To be perfectly honest, a wee bit. I mean, since Dembele's come in, we have seen less of Lee Griffiths, definitely. And considering he was scoring, I think it was over 40 goals in last season, so he definitely had a strong part to play in that team. And now Dembele's come in and kind of taken that thunder away from him. So
yeah, Lee Griffiths is out injured currently, but the fact that when he does come back, will he get in the team?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question. To be perfectly honest, I don't see him getting a start ahead of Dembele, just because Dembele isn't kind of miraculous form. Seems to get at least one goal every game that he plays in. So, I mean, maybe it's time for Lee Griffiths to start looking for other options.
Back to Hibs, perhaps?
Possibly.
And other results from the weekend. St Johnstone, they were host to Partick Thistle. They lost by 1-0 against Thistle. Aberdeen, they were at Ross County. They won by 1-0. St Mirren also travelled to East Fife. They won by 3-2. Dunfermline Athletic against Hamilton Academical. They were 1-1 in the replay, as we discussed in our teaser. It was Dunfermline were winning for the majority of the match. We'll jump to you in a second, Bryce. And Hamilton got a penalty late on, equalised, took it to extra time, got the forced substitution, as we said. Also, if you do have an answer for that teaser, please do tweet in. You can check at Radio ENRG for the full details regarding that. But it was a 3-0 win on penalties for Hamilton. Did Dunfermline need to practice on their penalties more? We saw earlier in the season they had 3 penalties, all 3 of which were saved. I think it was against Dundee.
Yeah, Dundee United. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's it's a really difficult one. You'd say normally don't practice penalties because they come up so rarely that it's almost not even worth talking about.
And that's twice a season that it's cost them.
Well, but I mean, Dunfermline have had a crazy amount of penalties this season, and as referees are being told more and more to, start looking at if someone's pulling a shirt in the box, give a penalty, getting a wee bit more strict, then more penalties are coming, and it's it's a difficult one because it's even brought up the subject of some people are now saying, well, are penalties a good way to kind of decide a game of football? So it's kind of changing the way how penalties are taken sometimes as well. But it's a difficult one for Dunfermline. But I'm proud that they've managed to get this far, and against a team a league above you, it's by no kind of disaster for them. I'm happy they've gone this far.
Now, other results from the weekend was A United. They were host to Clyde. It was 1-1 draw, went to replay. A United did win by 2-1, and they will either face Hibs or Hearts in the next round. So the fixtures for the next round: Aberdeen, they will be host to Partick Thistle. Celtic will be playing St Mirren, or Glasgow Paisley derby there. Rangers, they will be playing Hamilton, who formerly, as we just spoke, did play Dunfermline, and as I mentioned, Ayr will be travelling to Edinburgh, but is it Hearts or Hibs? Only time will tell for that. We usually would take a break now to go to English section, but we are limited for time this week, so we are going to go straight to the Premier League, and we're going to discuss Chelsea. They were travelling to Burnley. On paper, people did probably predict another win for Chelsea, but that wasn't to be the case. Pedro did take the lead very early on, but a stunning free kick from Brady saw Burnley hold on for a point. Massive point for Burnley, isn't it, Riz? Sorry.
Yeah, I would say so. But it's funny you mentioned there that we were all not expecting a Burnley result. But when you think about it, we shouldn't be that surprised, because this season they've done incredibly well against the big teams. I think the most famous win was obviously against Liverpool back in September, I believe it was.
4-3, yeah.
But yeah, it was. But yeah, I think Burnley, for that point, will obviously help them escape the relegation battle. I don't really think they were drawn too much into it anyway, but obviously solidifies that position, getting a point against the league leaders. For Chelsea, they still actually managed to gain points on their rivals, so it's not really the end of the world. They'll just hope it's not a recurring theme. But I think the key thing about that match was it was played at Turf Moor, and the incredible stat that I still can't get over is Burnley, I think they've got 29 points in the league this season. 28 of them have been secured at Turf Moor. They've got 1 away from home, so it's definitely something of a fortress, and I think Sean Dyche will have purposely worked on that. But they've got a great team spirit, a great team ethic, and as you said, it was a great result for them.
I think one of the things I do love about Turf Moor is at one point in the match, the football did go up, and it went on the ceiling of the stand roof, and it slowly rolled off and then bounced down the field. You don't really get that in the likes of, say, Anfield or Stamford or Old Trafford, so it is nice, a really grassroots club.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And Brady himself was making his full debut. He did come on a substitute as well, and what a way to make an impact. If you've not seen the goal already, it is definitely worth checking out. So now we go to Anfield. They were host to Tottenham Hotspur, and it was a 2-0 win. Sadio Mane getting 2 goals in practically 2 minutes. I'm going to go to you, Luke, again, considering you are the Liverpool fan in the studio. Tottenham Hotspur as well. I'll come to you, Bryce, after that about them. But for Liverpool, is this great now to get a win back in the league?
Massive result, because I'll be honest, I was speaking to my brother about it, and I had no confidence at all in any result coming out of the game, because I was at Liverpool's first league win of 2017, so the confidence was pretty low. Obviously Sadio Mane had been away at the African Cup of Nations. He came back against Chelsea, didn't really do much, but I feel now against Tottenham his full fitness was back, the team was gelling, and both goals were in a way quite easy for Liverpool, because Tottenham made it quite easy for them, but there was still great finishes from Mane, and I think the pace and the sort of the good style of passing, quick play was back. So they just basically got to see what happens from here. Liverpool will need to keep that confidence up, but it was definitely a much needed result because everything was looking to slide pretty downhill, to be honest.
Bryce, Tottenham Hotspur's record against the kind of top sides in the Premier League is very poor. I think the only side they've got a result of is Manchester City when they were hosting them. Is that worrying for not only Tottenham Hotspur fans but for Pochettino himself?
I mean, it's kind of worrying in the sense that they aren't performing well against the big teams. They are kind of always beating the smaller teams, so they're a decent place in the league. So I mean, that's not worrying for them. But what is if Tottenham are a club that really want to push in Europe, in the Europa League, I think they are, kind of been for the last couple of seasons. If they're really wanting to make a name for themselves, they need to be at least challenging for points in these big games. Because I mean, in Europe for them, they're not going to be playing the smaller teams that they play in the Premier League. They're going to be playing teams kind of the same calibre as Liverpool. So it's a wee bit worrying for Pochettino, and he's maybe going to need to reorganise some stuff.
And as well, we're now going to go to Swansea. They were host to Leicester City. You would have thought this at the start of the season, but it was a relegation battle-esque game, which saw Swansea City win by 2-0 against Leicester. Swansea's, I think, the tactics, I think Paul Clement as well, has completely revitalised that Swansea team since he's came in. Really defensively sound. The philosophy is great. The fact that every player knows what they're doing, knows who to mark. I think Mahrez and Vardy were kind of kept in, so to say, the back pockets of the Swansea players that night. What's consistently been saying about Leicester these past weeks looks that they're not taking the league seriously. Do you believe that?
I think the Champions League game against Sevilla will prove how seriously they take it. So if they can get a result against Sevilla, then it kind of does show they're not really trying. I'd like to hope that's not the case, because you don't want to see a team that's not bothering. But if you compare them to last year, I just think they're just missing so much pace, urgency and desire almost. I think they're almost still hanging on to their dream of winning the league, and that's acceptable to a point. But it gets to like the point we're at now, we're in February, and they are genuinely staring down the possibility of going back down to the Championship, being the first team to win the title and then go down to the second division. And Riyad Mahrez is the key point here, because last year he would take defenders on it easy, he was brimming with confidence, would score goals. He barely moves anymore. He looks like he doesn't care. So if I was a Leicester fan, I would be genuinely angry almost at the performance they're putting in at the moment.
Do you think that if Leicester had finished, say, like something like second or third last season, do you think that they'd be in the same position this season, or do you think they would be, higher up the league again because they'd still be wanting to really push for that title?
I think they would be mid-table, sort of mid to lower table. They wouldn't be in the relegation battle. They wouldn't be at the top of the league. I don't think that would happen again. But I think they've lost their desire now. I do. But I think it's fair to just quickly jump in to give credit to Swansea, because Paul Clement, I believe, got the Manager of the Month award for the Premier League in January, and he's made such a difference to that team. They looked like they were going to go down, and they're just playing attractive football now. And
from there, we're going to go to Sunderland. They were host to Southampton. It was a 4-0 battering for them. Gabbiadini, new sign for them, to get 2 goals to his name. That's 3 goals in 2 games now. Bryce, is he was, I think, a former Sunderland player as well. Is this the start of something for Southampton for him?
I mean, Southampton, I think it's Sunderland, I should say. They went from a 4-0 win to a 4-0 loss. 8 goal difference in 2 different games is, clearly something's not right there. So David Moyes is going to have to take a really strong look at what went wrong, and hopefully he'll be able to fix that for next week. But on the flip side, as you're saying, Gabbiadini, I think he actually came from somewhere in Italy.
Yeah.
But he's, to be perfectly honest, I hadn't heard a lot about him when he came, but he's shown that he's got that kind of clinical finisher edge. Some of his goals were almost right under the goalkeeper, but he just got the edge in there, and the other one was a nice spin for him. So he's a player of class. It'll be interesting to see what he does for the rest of the season.
And from one relegation battle inside to another, we're going to Crystal Palace now. Sam Allardyce has only got 1 win with Crystal Palace in the league this season. Stoke City, it was a 1-0 win. good friend of Luke, Joe Allen, not personal but in spirit.
In my heart, he's
he,
there.
he was a difference in that match for Crystal Palace. Look, Sam Allardyce, he does have a track record of being in this situation with teams that the fact that they've been struggling in the league and they're facing relegation, but he brings them back up. He gives them a fight. It's about we saw that with Sunderland last season. And it was a few weeks before the end of the season that it really kicked in and that they were away from that threat. Is it worrying now this season that he's taken Palace that he's not had that kickstart yet?
It's not. You're right. It's not looking as convincing as it was. And yeah, you're right, because I think everybody probably expected more from Big Sam's appointment. We kind of expected something to change, and to be honest, he's kind of playing the same kind of football and getting the similar sort of results as Alan Pardew was. I don't think they'll go down, principally because the way Leicester are going, they're probably just going to bail them out. If it wasn't for Leicester, I would be genuinely concerned. I almost in a weird way think that going to the Championship would be good for them, because they would sort of get a kick, to the chest almost, and realise they actually have to properly work and get something. Because they've got talented individuals, but I just sometimes worry about the way the team works together. But Sam does have great experience in this sort of position, so if anyone can dig them out, he can.
And just to recap the rest of the results, West Ham, they had a 2-2 draw with West Brom. West Brom getting an early and late goal in the match that saw them earn a point. Samuel Bilic has been charged with improper conduct as well. If you've not seen it, during the equaliser for West Brom, he picks up the mic at the sideline and smashes it into the ground and was sent off by the fourth official and referee. Middlesbrough, they had a 0-0 draw with Everton. Everton going from 6-3 went to a goalless draw. Middlesbrough themselves being the lowest scoring side in the Premier League. Manchester United, they had a 2-0 win against Watford, looking much more convincing side, but yet they are still sixth. Well, they will rise from that point late in the season. Only time will tell. Arsenal, they had a 2-0 win against Hull. A lot breezed off pressure for Arsene Wenger slightly, but the goal Arsenal did go ahead to the lead in was a handball from Sanchez. Matt Clattenburg, who was refereeing the match, did apologise to Hull City players at half time because he did miss it. And on the Monday Night Football, Manchester City, they were at Bournemouth. They won by 2-0. It was an own goal, I do believe, for Bournemouth for the second, and it was Sterling who got the first as well. So, moment of the week, lads, as we finish off the show.
I'll let you go first.
I would have to go with the obvious being a Liverpool fan. It's a return to form, 2-0 win against Spurs at home.
Bryce?
You know, even though they lost, I'm going to say Dunfermline did well to get to where they were in the cup.
Yeah, it was Mings who got the own goal. It was Aguero who got a slight touch to it. For me, personally, it was Pep Guardiola going up to Harry Arter after the Bournemouth match, and it was regarding his baby, I think, passed away after it was born, and take a listen to this. And a bit of jokingly banter at the end when Harry Arter did say to Pep Guardiola to go and sign him. So, thank you for listening as always to the Football Roundup. We have 3 notifications, but none of which are about our teaser. So we will read the answer out for our teaser. If you did guess it, unfortunately, your answer will not be credited in the show, but if you do have an answer for our next teaser and our next show, which is in 2 weeks' time, please do not hesitate to tweet in with your answers. So the question was, which team was to make a 4th substitution in a competitive match? Which team did it first? And that was Ayr United. They played Rose in the 121st minute, and that was against Queen's Park on the 25th of January. So thank you as always for Bryce Dawson and Luke Barry for joining us in the studio today. We'll be back the following week for more Champions League action to recap and more. So thank you very much.